Hey guys, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art sherpa, and today I want to show you how you can make better splatter and splashes today. Being able to splatter paint is a really fun way to be able to put in stars, the tops of waves, sand on a beach, and snow falling down. But it can also be frustrating for new artists. So this whole video is about different ways that you can get a splatter effect with the tools that you have, and some tips and tricks so you can be more successful at starring up that night sky. So get your paint, get your brushes, get your splattering tools, come back and meet me at Diesel right now. I'm going to show you how you can be better at splatter. Let's go. Hey, so let's look at how we can start splattering better today. We want to make a beautiful mess. Let's get started. I have an 11 by 14 canvas that I have gessoed black here so you can see the splatters in the areas where I do it right and areas where I show you how you might be having trouble at home. Over here I have materials that you guys might be using trying to splatter and make stars and make the tops of waves and sands. This is heavy body paint. This is soft body paint or fluid paint. This is like the consistency also that you might see in craft paint. I have some high flow. This is an acrylic high flow that you might see in an airbrush. This is about the consistency of ink. I've got a couple brushes that I'm going to demo the whacking method. And of course I have my two brushes from my Galaxy set for making your own galactic paintings. So I've got these two. I'm going to show you how you can use all these tools to get better at splattering today. So here I have some heavy body paint. I have some high flow ink, and I have some of that fluid acrylic here. That's like the soft body. And these are the things that you might be using. Now obviously you're going to need to thin this paint. So let's start with the most common method you see, which is the double brush method. I'm going to get this brush wet and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to thin this paint. Right? And I'm going to try to thin it to a similar consistency to this one. I like to use a round to splatter with. And I also like to have a place to test splatter so I can see if the dispersion that I'm trying to get or the way I'm trying to get it is going to work really well. And so this would be the first method. I've thinned my paint. I've got my two brushes. I'm going to hold them at a cross and I'm going to whack. You can see though, where I have my thin paint, I might possibly get a string, right? Now I'm going to rinse this out. And I'm going to show you the ink and the high flow. So let's go ink. This is ink. I haven't thinned this with any water. I'm going to come up here. And this is, I'm whacking wood to wood. I'm avoiding the metal part of my brushes. And I'm whacking wood to wood. So you can see that that's more likely to do strings, but it does some nice dispersion here. I've loaded this up with just the fluid paint. I'm going to do it again. Now, the fluid paint, you can see, gives me the best whack for my whack. But this method has a lot of sort of dot over it. This is where you're going to see dots kind of on your ceiling and all around you and on your face. I love it. I love paint freckles. But that's just something to think about when you're using the brush whack method. Another thing I want you to think about is the angle of your brush. And so if you angle down, you get a whack like that. And if you angle up, you get a line. Neither of those things is particularly bad in any way. Just know that that's what happens. If you're angling down, you're going to get this dispersion. If you're angling up, you're going to get a line. Let's look at some of the other tools that we might commonly use in splattering paint. Let me show you the next tool that we can use for creating a perfect star splatter top of wave sand effect. Now this is my star splatter brush. It looks a lot like a toothbrush, and you could use a toothbrush for very similar techniques. This is just really predictable and I really like it. Here I've got some thinned paint, right? And I'm going to swirl my bristles around in this. This is the heavy body thinned. Now whether you're using this brush or toothbrush, be sure that you're checking for areas where the paint is glopped up, because if it's glumped up, what's going to happen is it's going to come out in glumps on your canvas. Remember, you can always test your splatter on a scratch piece of paper before putting it on your painting. Now I'm going to show you how to get this particular splatter going. So this is about pulling back on the bristles. I'm going to hold it to the side so you can see it go. And, you know, I don't just go whoosh. I think about it, like I test it a little bit. I see how the splatter is going to go. This gives me a chance to see if I've loaded well, if it's going how I like, I can always add splatter. But you can see if I pull hard, I'm more likely to get that effect. Whereas if like I'm real close and I pull too hard, that's how I'm going to get those strings. See that? But if I back up and pull lightly, I'm going to get more of that star effect. Now my favorite thing, I'm going to rinse this out. Just a little note, if you're using a toothbrush or my brush, to be sure and really rinse it out. Don't soak it in water and let it dry the bristles down. Also, don't brush your teeth with stuff you painted with. I'm going to take the soft body paint here and I'm going to load this up. I'm going to load this up all over my brush. Right? And I'm going to come here, and I really love soft body paint for this. I'm going to come back from the canvas and I'm going to just pull lightly, and that's going to give me a nice soft dispersion. If I get close, it's going to be thicker. Now, the soft body paint won't do the strings on me as much. You really have to almost thin heavy body paint to get that effect. So if that's what you're looking for, and sometimes you will be, that's how you get it. But if you're looking for this type of dispersion where you're like, I'm trying to say, build up a bunch of galaxy. But again, if I pull really hard, some particular direction, look, I get like a definite direction on the paint. This is pretty fun and pretty easy. You ready to see the next brush? Now I want to show you a really fun brush that I think is great for making stars and galaxies. This is one of my very favorite tools, just for abstract painting, for stars and galaxies, for everything. This is my ArtSherpa Galaxy brush, and I'm going to start with my soft body paint this time because actually I know that thin paint gets a little crazy. I'm going to dip in the edge of my filaments here, these fun filaments. There's lots of ways to use this, but this is a really fun thing, and I like to squish or run these between my fingers. And again, this is about having the paint evenly distributed. I like come far back and I just release the filaments, and this gives me a bigger dot pattern. And so this is really great when I want a bigger dot pattern that's more all over everything. So that's what I like to use that for. Now, if I use thinned paint, so say I thin my paint out, I'm going to get a slightly different effect. Come here and load up my bristles. And it may or may not. I'm just more likely to get splatters that I don't intend if the paint's very wet. Let's see if I can show it. I'm going to push it to show it because sometimes you guys send me pictures and I know what happens, so I'm going to try to just make sure I show you here. Okay, there it happened. So see, these kinds of splatters is about this having the extra moisture where they're more like a splatter than a star. And this is going to be true. I'm going to show it to you on a couple of my tools here, like this brush. If the water's overly thinned, right, and I whack it, I'm going to get more of that effect. So that's what's happening to you guys when you're getting that, is that you just have too much water in the mix. And again, the fix to that is to get a soft body paint, like a fluid, or, you know, a soft body or craft paint, and then it'll just disperse from whatever you're using a lot easier. My tips for success, my takeaway is this: use a scratch piece of paper. Make sure that the mixture on the brush that you're going to be using is really, really good. And remember, there's a lot of tools with which you can flick and splatter and, you know, apply paint, but it's really about how thick is the paint and how much moisture is in it to tell you what kind of splatter that you get. And maybe sometimes it's not really a mistake if you want it. So it's about experimenting with your tool and making sure you're getting the result you like. I hope that you like this little tips and tricks. I hope you'll galaxify everything. I've got some paintings that you can now run and go do using these techniques. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye!